Hello and welcome to the fifth and final, for now, Bonfireside Chat special. This is the top 5 NPCs, and this time I am joined by CJ and Paddy of Twin Humanities. As per always, you have the Souls of Darkness Kickstarter backers to thank for this. Thank those guys very much for helping me make a thing I really wanted to make. Thanks to CJ and Paddy. And then also thanks to your own sense of grace and forgiveness. Again, when I record these, I don't have all the mixing gear and stuff that Patreon buys. Lives at Cole's house, which just makes sense. However, without that physical hardware, I don't have that same recording setup. So I'm kind of using my jury-rigged version. The sound quality is not as good as it usually is for our episode, so you will please forgive me for that. And also, CJ and Paddy are on the same track. So, when they kind of talk over each other, I can't edit it out, really. That is just a function of the recording setup I have in my house. So I do apologize for that, but please enjoy our top 5 NPCs.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is CJ.
And my name is Paddy.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat, and this is the fifth and final of the Souls of Darkness Kickstarter top 10, top 5, bottom 10 specials. And as you heard, I am joined by CJ and Paddy of Twin Humanities.
Hello.
Fine gentlemen.
Thank you for having us back.
Oh, absolutely. We depending on how the actual season pans out, we're planning to have you back anyway. It's just been tricky getting scheduling and figuring all that out. But this is this way, at the very least, we definitely get you on the season, regardless of how that shakes out and how the DLC works and all of that jazz.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, man.
Because you're very, very loved guest.
Thanks,
Thanks
for not making me think too hard about lore, because I don't want to think about Dark Souls 3 lore.
I
don't care enough anymore.
I'll save that so I don't get, this is a fun place. I don't need to get all those comments in the response to one of these episodes.
Bring it.
There's a reason.
Get me.
There's a reason why we didn't do bottom 5 NPCs, because that's, I'm not scared of people on the internet, but it does at some point become exhausting. I don't have a bottomless appetite for getting into just, 10 separate debates on our Facebook page, at once, like, spinning plates. So this is positive. Positive, yay! Top 5 NPCs.
Yay!
I am excited for this. Yeah, but everybody's going to go with something different on this, and as we had a little bit of a chat beforehand, I think it's always interesting to go on instinct with these rather than sort of I wonder, and then just ponder and overthink things. And I don't know. It was one of those where I just went like, yes, but I've still got a few on the cusp, a few notable mentions that maybe should have gotten in there. I guess the more I think about it, but we'll see.
When I went on instinct, it was just 5 entries of the unnamed priest from Demon Souls, who tells you to go rescue Urbane. It's just like, this guy's got it going on. He really sets the whole question in motion.
He's got motivation. He's got a plot.
Yeah. So just him over and over. I just keep coming back. So I had to fight down those instincts as a noted Urbaniac, and move on to other games in the series. Some kind of rules about this. So people who are listening have either heard or we've done top and bottom bosses. So in general, bosses don't count for this. So even if they might have a story behind them, they have to at least be an NPC in addition to, even that's kind of gray area. Like I tried to avoid bosses for this and just do NPC in the classic merchant or storyline.
Because I know there was one that was on your mind, wasn't it? Because I remember you said the other day.
Yeah,
and
I will go ahead and say that. Then we can get right into it with honorable mentions. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Excellent. Actually, before we get into that, talk about Twin Humanities a little bit.
We have an occasional Dark Souls podcast when our shifts do align, and we like to have a natter and invite people on and find out where they came from with games and growing up, and what led them to the Souls games in the first place. Have a bit of a natter about their favourite stuff amidst that, and then probably usually cover an area as we go along as well. But a lot of it's sort of quite chatty and freeform, and it's something that we really like doing, and it's great to be able to schedule it. But sometimes sort of it's normally my shifts that can throw a spanner in the works.
Oh, we've both been bad recently, to be fair. I mean, I've stepped up in the world of retail now, so I get home like, I can't do anything tonight, I need to sleep now. I'm done, thanks. But we do another show as well called Oh the Humanities, where we talk about everything else, and it's just talking about films and comics these days, isn't it?
That's the easier one to do, I think, because you can just go, right, in the times that we've not been together, so what we've been watching or listening to or reading or drinking or where we've been, and, it's, I don't know, we enjoy catching up, but that's probably gotten a little bit better of late because we just haven't had time to talk to each other. So when we do get a chance to say hello, it is genuinely the first chance we've had to say hello for a while. But we love doing it, and it's nice getting comments back and stuff like that. So yeah,
if you want to listen to someone like not doing a very good job, like listen to our very first 20 episodes, I think it was, which is like cataloguing my first run through Dark Souls. And I've listened back to some of it recently, and I'm ashamed of myself. Like, dude, what are you doing? Why did you jump in the hole? Why did you do that? You knew it was going to go badly, but you went in anyway.
Can't stay away from holes.
Yeah, a lot of the first run is hidden, and you can just lie about it. Oh yeah, I did all this in the first try, and all mine's out there, warts and all for the world to see. Shame.
Yeah, it is. People, a lot of people who I know who listen to our show listen to yours as well. I see that from message boards and stuff where you see your people recommend podcasts kind of in general and come up a lot, which is really great, and it's always fun to have you guys on.
Thank you very much.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
thanks.
It's been fun getting to know you guys. So I'm really glad that we, because I originally didn't have an idea for another one of these specials. Somebody on Twitter, and whoever that person is who's cursing my name right now, forgive me for forgetting your name. But somebody suggested NPCs, and I was like, oh yeah. And 5 is a nice even number, so I like the idea of doing 5 of these.
Wait, 5 is an even number?
Or a nice round. That's what I want. We do things differently across the world.
It's late here and not there. How are you there?
Our evens are and this is such bad, boring podcast content. But I probably slept for about 90 minutes last night. I am definitely not at my freshest. And for various reasons.
The madness can see us through. I think that first time that I was on Bonfireside Chat, I'd gone to sleep, and I'd gotten up about 1 o'clock in the morning, put a coffee on, ate 2 chocolate bars, and said hello to you.
Yeah,
so I was like, it's sugar and caffeine and sleep deprivation, but everything's fine.
I remember that specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good matter. I enjoyed it.
It is. Sometimes it can be good to have that kind of lack of sleep, but I'm definitely caffeinated. What's going to happen is in 4 hours in the middle of recording Abject Suffering is when I'm going to all of a sudden everything's going to seem sad. I'm just going to be like, do you think Booger Man has a troubled home life? And it's just going to get really so that's my guess. So, and these shows get staggered. I have no idea when this is coming out. So if there's one weird, depressing episode of Abject Suffering and people are wondering what the origin of it is, the secret origin is here.
Yeah.
I love it.
So honorable mentions. We do honorable mentions on the list, and my honorable mention is Eldia, the scholar of the First Sin, who I think we all agree adds an awful lot to that game and is a really wonderful character. And the only reason he's in that honorable mention slot is he is a boss. So he's not disqualified. He's by my own arbitrary, not even real rules that I just decided to set for myself. That put him in the 6th slot. But my favorite thing about Eldia that hasn't been talked about to death on the season is once he's introduced as a concept in the game, you never know when he's going to show up. And every time he did, it was an amazing moment where I'm just kind of cruising along. I've played Dark Souls 2 a bunch of times, and then would try to use the bonfire and just have this invasion of my space by this story thing I least expected.
I laughed.
I still jump
every single time.
And how cute is Mini Aldea inside the dragonary or dragon shrine? There's like a little tiny one that fits in a room.
A little tiny babby one. Yeah. You think he can't possibly show up here, it's too small. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, buddy.
Now you see, with Aldea, I thought there was a lot of speculation as to who he was and where he fitted into Dark Souls 2 before they realised him as a character. And I think one of the criticisms of Dark Souls 3 is that oftentimes there's a focusing on the lore which at times doesn't sit that well with me, or kind of rankles a little bit. But this is one of those where they not only like fine-tuned it, but I think the dialogue is some of the finest in any of the games. And one of the ways that I really fell into Dark Souls 2 massively was because of the Bonfire Side Chat episode on Aldea. And, you know, lots of that dialogue was listed, but there was one intimation on a word which I got wrong when I was listening to it, and it was the bit where he said, "I sought to shed the yoke of fate, but failed." And in my head when I was listening to it, I heard that as YOLK for the yoke, and I was thinking, like, well, which came first, the chicken and the egg, and like the, you know, as to the realism of the world, and if the yoke was kind of hardened on this, is that saying that there's something of a shell around the world which is within kind of the greater scheme, and like a reversal of things, and it really played on my mind. And even though I got that intimation sort of incorrect, it still stayed in there, and that voice acting is astonishing.
He's really phenomenal. He's one of my favorite voice actors in the series. I've talked about it a bunch on the show, but that, like, the final thing during his ending where he has that, like, you know, what is your answer? Like, there's like a lilt to how he asked that question, or give us your answer, and it kind of goes up. And he said it's a delivery I really, really like.
There's something quite Shakespearean about all of that, and it adds almost like a sense of theatre. That if all of Dark Souls 2 is going on upon a stage, he's the person that's standing between us and the curtains and is talking to us. And I love that. I think it's fascinating.
Fantastic. Paddy, what's your honourable mention?
My honourable mention is all of the Crestfallen Warriors.
Okay, the Crestfallen Boys.
Because I couldn't pick a favourite. Like, every game has, like, just a really sad man just sitting at the first hub area, who's just given up. He's like, no, I can't. Like, he'll usually give you, like, a bit of advice, and usually doubts that you could do any better. It's like a player who's, like, tried to play the game, and has got to, like, maybe the first boss, and has gone, you know what, game's too hard, game sucks, not playing, I give up. He's a guy who never got good in that respect. And I just like meeting the grumpy, miserable man at the start of every game, like, oh, this again. Like, it sets the tone quite nicely. I come to expect a grumpy man at the beginning. And I made a thing. It shows you that the world, it won't just beat you down physically, but it will beat you down mentally. It will beat you in the brain and the balls.
Yeah.
There we go. Balls metaphor. Thank you.
Yeah.
I always like beating them, and they're always just sad. And that makes me happy, and is that bad?
No.
Good. Fine. I'm okay with it. Yeah, so all the Crestfallen, I couldn't pick a favourite. I tried, and I failed.
Yeah. I like that character a lot. Different incarnations, more than others. Like, one of the things that Dark Souls 3 does, is that they added a lot of kind of backstory to that character, that archetype. And kind of made him kind of tragic in his own sense, which is like, not, nobody from Dark Souls 3 is my favorite NPC, but like as far as kind of riffs on that character, it was genuinely surprising to have him have his own internal life, as opposed to the Dark Souls 1 iteration who just like fucks off down to New Londo at some point.
Yeah, he seems like he's actually part of the world rather than just another guy that showed up. Entrenched within the Farron Knights and stuff, and that was cool. It's like it's one of the few lore things. Again, come at me, internet. One of the few lore things Dark Souls 3 does, I think, better is actually give him something to do and actually have quite a rewarding and interesting arc. It doesn't just end with him giving up and just going to die somewhere.
He gives up and goes to die somewhere for a reason.
Yeah.
So it still ends up being it is
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. CJ, do you have anything to add about these fellas? Also, if you've listened to them, if something ends up on all of our lists and you can just be like, it's here later, I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
That way we don't blow it all right away.
No, I'm good on that front. All
Cool.
is golden.
Who's your honorable mention, CJ?
Royal Sorcerer Navlan.
Ooh, yeah.
What a lad. I had no idea until, much later playthroughs that there was a different aspect to him being human. Sorry, you being human, or you being hollowed, and the different quests that he sends you on. But also the fact that if you release him, he makes your life hell for the rest of the game with the invasions. There's just something about the trap behind the looking glass aspect of Navlan, something weird and sinister and brilliant, and I think it's a really clever way to play an NPC in that regard. So I really like him.
I love
he's fantastic.
The reverse psychology of all the notes by the lever, like, don't do it, no really don't do it, of course I'm doing it.
Well, initially I kind of wondered if he was Aldia before the scholar stuff kicked in.
Oh, sure. Where he's located and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, with the scholar having the aspect of delving into the human soul, the human psyche, the dragon spirit, and slicing off little aspects of those to try and find the reason that people hollow and to stop it. I just wondered if he was the sort of mad scientist that just experimented on himself, ended up going sinister and mad, and having the ability to, create multiple versions of himself and jump all over the landscape. And that was a fascination with me. But still, when Aldi was realised with the scholar, it didn't take away from that. Didn't do a kind of the same sort of numbing as seems to have happened with Solaire. It still resonated. So I wasn't wasn't upset with him.
Yeah, he was on my short list. Navlan, he almost made it on, but he didn't quite get there. But I really like him a lot.
Same here. Yeah, he was close. Yeah. Like, I knew he was, like, I think I let him free and, like, immediately got yurt feelings. Like, right, you die now.
Yeah, you got yurt feelings.
Yeah, and
I got yurt feelings. I got yurt feelings.
But he doesn't invade you if you kill him right away. It's fine. He's gone if you kill him there and then.
It doesn't add to your level of sin either.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's a victimless crime.
Good job.
They haven't done very much with that idea in the series of like a character who has that kind of, like, I'm going to say split personality, but that's not quite right. Like, done very much with a character that can have aspects of kind of madness or hollowing that is reversible or somehow exists at the same time. Like, usually it's a one-way street, and it's interesting to have somebody who is kind of a madman or has gone hollow or is otherwise sinister, where it is not a defining trait, like somebody who's actually kind of struggling with it, which I think is pretty neat.
So I like as well that when you do his quests, that he only has to know that you've got the item to be satisfied. And in my head, that's still him not taking the item from you, because he doesn't take it from your inventory. He just wants to see it. He just wants to know that you've gotten it. And I think there's something quite confident and sinister about that, where it's like, I don't even need the thing. I just want to see that you've done it. Or I need to believe that you've done it. And that's I don't know, a little left of centre. I love it.
Yeah. Moving on to my number 5. Speaking of Yurt, the Silent Chief, is my number 5. And this was hard too, because I could have done a similar thing and just been like, all the Lautrec boys, come on in. And Lautrec, I think, is kind of a cooler character, but the way that Yurt actually, the way that questline happens, I really, really like. I knew somebody warned me, but if I use my imagination and think of myself as playing Demon Souls without any prior knowledge, just having people around me just start dying without knowing why is so cool to me as like a gameplay thing. Like it can kind of fuck you over, but it's really a gentle ramp up, the order in which it happens. Where like it's that priest, it's the guy who likes Urbaniac number 1.
Can I just butt in here? As someone who didn't know about this,
I didn't know either.
Trust me, it's not cool when he kills every magic vendor before you realise what's going on. Because I was stuck with the goddamn soul arrow and the stupid crap fireball for the rest of the game. I couldn't change them out.
But in the same way as Demons, when I first played it and the first invasion happened, it genuinely felt like somebody had just kicked the windows into the flat and just had busted in. It really freaked me out because I'd not known anything like that before. And in the same way, suddenly having people dying around the Nexus, I couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't figure it out. And it brought a real sense of unease and wariness and vulnerability, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that still resonates. It's really cool.
And the same thing, a similar effect is achieved by Lautrec when he kills your Firekeeper, which I love that moment too. Like I'm taking away your home. And I think the reason why I gave it to you was that it's there's not really, you can kind of, if you talk to Lautrec, you can see that he's kind of being a skeeve for the Firekeeper. And I think that Patches or Petrus gives you a little bit of a warning, but the feeling of like how when Yurt does it, it's so slow. And it's just like, oh, like this person died. That's weird. Oh, somebody else died. Like it didn't happen this way for me, but I can imagine the gameplay scenario where you kind of have to be a little bit of a detective, and you're kind of Batman walking around the Nexus, like looking at these corpses and being like, why are people around here dying? Oh, wait, this started happening after I let that weirdo out of the cage in Latria. I
felt like I didn't really get to know Yurt. Lautrec, you got the feeling that he was a little bit of a pantomime villain, and it wasn't really a surprise when that kicked in. But Yurt, I don't know, there was something sinister when it is someone who is just a symbol. If you're led into believing that everybody that you free in a game, which is something that the Souls games and Bloodborne have done very well. Somebody that you free is grateful. And if they come back to your place, they're really quite happy to be there, and everything's lovely. You don't really expect that.
But it's a real, like, it's subverting a video game thing where, like, in games, it's useful to help people and they give you a mechanical reward. This kind of sense of, like, this being the first entrance in the series where, like, no, you can't actually trust, like, your video game instincts. Is really cool, I think. And that's why
it taught me to pay more attention, because I noticed the corpses, but I just assumed that bodies were there because this was a place where lots of people die. And only when I went around the corner to sort of change my spells up did I notice that everyone was dead.
And even though that was like a huge kind of fuck you moment and was hard for that game, so it's maybe a little bit inelegant, right? Like in Lautrec, it's a little bit easier to work around. It's still like a really kind of brazen thing to do to a player.
It was hilarious, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's just like funny, but I was not happy. And I think I've spent every Souls game since looking for the Yurt. Like every time a character dies, where's the Yurt? Who's the Yurt?
Exactly, like the hunt the Yurt, find the patches, hunt the Yurt, like that kind of thing. Something that somebody said in the lead up to Dark Souls 2, and I can't remember who it was, but like it'd be amazing to place the Solaire figure, whoever is your actual like companion, give him a Yurt helmet, and when you find him, he's right on the edge of a cliff. So like it just so many players would just be like, oh, I know where this is going, kick, and then you just killed your buddy.
My expectations.
I think there's something in the atmosphere of Demon Souls that I've not really seen in any other game. When I come back to it still unnerves me and fascinates me. There's something within that design work, the way that it's lit, just everything. I can never quite put my finger on what it is that Demon Souls does, but every time I go back to it, it's still there. I'm still fascinated with it, and I think that Yurt is definitely a colour within that sort of that sinister malevolence, I guess, is wonderful.
Absolutely. Paddy, who's your number 5?
My number 5 is a disembodied head. My number 5 is Vengal from Dark Souls 2. And I kind of, again, I wrote my list out on instinct. I thought to myself, who do I like? And I literally wrote them out in order, like, straight away without really thinking too hard. Like, I went back and looked at it, but I went back to the original 5 I wrote after a while. Vengal was like a no thinking. I love Vengal. Like, I feel really bad for him. Because he's an NPC, but he's kind of 2 NPCs at the same time. He's the head and he's the body. I like that when you speak to him, like, he's initially quite grumpy, tells you to sod off. And if you sort of gain his trust a bit, he'll tell you about his past, how he used to be a big, sort of fearsome fighter, and he was the kind of fighter that his own men were scared of, until he got decapitated one day, but then woke up. And he's now just, like, super chill. He's just happy to sit on his rock and just think, and you're there, he'll chat to you when you go. I don't think he's that fussed when you go. He's just happy to sit in his nice quiet wood by himself. And I like the way that he talks about how he dreams about his body sometimes. Like,
yeah, that's a good detail.
There's still looking at it, it's like, I can see it, like, murdering and rampaging. And he tells you, if you see my body, like, just leave it. Like, my body sucks. Like, don't be near my body. My head's the best part of me. Leave my body.
I think, again, the voice acting is absolutely superb. And really it sounds like someone that's all at once lost and is torn apart by these dreams of the people, of the person that he was and the places that he's been, and also the aspect that is without him being there. And I just love that delivery. It's so warm and sad.
And tired. He just sounds tired as well.
Yeah. It's also a great comedy moment too, because when you first meet him, it's like, oh, he's a disembodied head who knows exactly what that means. But then to have him, and he's kind of grumpy, he's a warrior and stuff, and then eventually he's like, it's been a while since I've had a talk. I actually kind of like this. Like, he literally has a turn where he's like, this is pretty fun. And it's genuinely really funny.
Well, I think it's good for you as a player. Like, hey, player, you're cool, actually, aren't you? Yeah. Yes, I am. I am cool. Thanks.
I think the aspect of him being torn away from his own body, but you as it's humanity that he's missed, and that connection, and that ties back into, for me, the curse of Dark Souls 2 anyway, because it's people losing who they are, and the moments that they strive, that they're brilliant, that they love, that they live, and that's what Vendrick, chooses to try and go through numerous atrocities to try and sort
capture. Yeah.
I don't know if I like it better. I don't know if I like Vengal better in regular vanilla Dark Souls 2 or in Scholar, because in Scholar you meet his body like really quickly. In the basement of the Shaded Woods. And it's kind of cool that it sort of wraps that up nice and quick. But I think I prefer the version in Dark Souls 2 Vanilla, where you're waiting around for hours before you meet his body. And it's out there somewhere. Like, oh, watch out for my body. And it's weird, and it sticks in your mind. Like, oh, cool, there's a headless dude around here somewhere. Great. And the fact that it turns up at, like, the worst possible place it can possibly show up. Like, oh, cool, here's one of the primal bonfires. After a boss, here's a big scary man to gank you. Like,
yeah, it's a Chekhov's body.
Yeah, I love that. I love that they put it, and like, it sort of speaks to the character his body used to be when he was, a really, really, really rough boy. He sounds like he would, wait by the bonfire. You wait until you had a big fight and then come out and just murder your ass. Like, I think I prefer that, and like the dread when you think, "Oh God, I know who this is."
I think there's a kind of hidden comedy in the fact that the voice actor doesn't sound a million miles away from Sean Bean, and this is someone that's essentially been killed and is in repose, sort of thinking about his full life that he had and the tragedy that's kicked in thereafter. So yeah.
Yeah, beheaded even. CJ, what do you got? Number 5.
Number 5, Bashful Ray.
Oh,
love him. Perv Wolverine, those claws, the daggers, the ninja outfit, Dragon's Crest ring. But the best thing about Bashers is Bashers isn't all about the fight. Bashers is a man of travel, of adventure, a distinguished gentleman of art and architecture. time to scrap it out, bloody lethal against invaders, but time to not just study the landscape, but study the landscape, whipping out those binoculars and having a good old perv. Now, apparently, he points out the nearest hidden enemy with them, which I really didn't know, but I don't.
That's pretty awesome.
I didn't know that. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, he will see the hidden stuff that's in the sand in like Brightstone Cove and stuff, and sort of go attack them or point them out. But I like to think that he's someone that just turns up there and he's going like, "Would you look at that? Oh my word! Look at the structures and the way that's happened. Oh, that's really artistic." And then he goes and kicks ass. And then he pulls out the binoculars again. That's marvellous. That's wonderful. And it's very rare that you get someone that can appreciate the art of life and the wonderment of the surroundings, to be an adventurer, to be that true artist, but also is quite happy beating the crap out of people in his binoculars and pajamas.
What a dial back they did with the third one. Not to be sound like a parody of myself, but like. They made such advancements with really, really fun kind of invaders. In 2 and in the DLC where like there were these, Bashful Ray and, Gesture Thomas and stuff like that. And then they just, you get in 3, you get Sorig, who teaches you a gesture when he kills you. But other than that, there's not a lot in the way of like pretty fun, NPC invaders that do weird stuff.
Well, they did a thing in Dark Souls 2 whereby I got to the point, especially with Scholar, where I would rather have one of the NPC summons than a regular person, because it was nice getting that continuity through the game, and there was so much personality in there, especially when they were pointing out the windmill to set on fire, or jumping up and down and cheering when you got in it, and I don't know, they were bursting with personality and memorable as well. And I think that's another one of the aspects of Dark Souls 3 that I'm a little bit sullen about, because they absolutely nailed it in the second one.
I think so too.
Agree.
And my number 4 is Lucatiel of Mira, who is my favorite articulation of the pure articulation of like the hollowing as dementia kind of metaphor. And there's something later that plays into it, but it plays into something else as well, which everybody who's listening to this who knows my taste in NPCs knows what that is. But Lucatiel I think is genuinely really, really sad and great. Like this idea of her wearing this mask to hide from other people that she's hollowing, and then just the way that her, by the time she gets to, finding her brother who is a hostile invader and she's already lost it, she has lost her mind, and she either found him and that was the final straw and went and camped out, or she was right there and gave up within, a stone's throw of actually accomplishing her goal. Either way is very sad. Her voice actress really sells it. And I think a lot of people who don't like this NPC don't like it because of the mechanical aspects, which I agree are kind of a failure. Like the way that you have to make her questline advance by bringing her into battles is cool in spirit, but it was a pain to keep her alive for some of those, especially the Lost Sinner and doing that run up. But the content of her quest and content of her character I really, really like. I
think she's also because Lucatiel's my number 4 as well. She's also your anchor to the game as well. Within not just a particular through line, but when she sees your character sort of later on, and she's losing her mind, you ground her. She realizes sort of that she recognizes you, and it kind of pulls her back from the brink of madness. And I think that perhaps all of those battles that were led into with her are leading her up to, a fated battle with her brother, potentially. So, because, he's already lost his mind and is one step away from when we see her, and she sees us and she remembers who she is, and that's one step away from where you see her brother. I think it's potentially important.
Yeah, I really love I love that about her as well. Yeah, she plays that she's that kind of soul air character, so she is your anchor, but she also serves in this game in 2 specifically as kind of this consequence for because you're going through that same kind of thing, the whole thing, and people complain about this, but the whole you'll get to the gates and you won't know why you're there thing that doesn't bother me as much as it bothers the internet.
Why does it bother the internet? I'm curious.
Just because they feel like they ascribe it to being lazy as opposed to being on purpose or being about kind of hollowing. But and I know you guys are on the same page about this, but we talked about a lot in the season about 2 being about your main character kind of losing their minds a little bit throughout it, and she's a really good articulation of that. Like she ends up being an example of what can happen. What's the bad thing that can happen?
I think there's something within that for me of it not just being a land where people have lost their mind or are losing their mind, but people being drawn to that land as well, whether they wish to forget or it's something much more subconscious. That really calls to me. I mean, I got a huge connection to Dark Souls 2 with regards to depression. If you're looking at that swirling vortex of sort of screaming skulls and that's very much a connection to it. Shrine of Amana with the when we sing the little ones dance and the creatures having their head plunged underwater, which is very much like the way that depression feels to me. All of that seems an interesting nuance and a connection to it. And for me personally, it's really not lazy at all. It's all part of the majesty and the connection I have with it. Also, I mean, on a personal level, we had a listener, Neo Loki, who said that
I'm familiar.
Yeah, that Lucatiel or Lucatiel's quest reminded him of his stepfather, who'd been a hero to him his entire life, and now was suffering with Alzheimer's and couldn't remember the times that they shared as when he was a child. And that was the start of the rabbit hole for me for Dark Souls 2. That I couldn't get out my mind. It stayed in my heart, and the more that I followed those connections through and made my own connections from there in, it just became this phenomenal enigma. But that was the start of it, and Lucatiel was a huge part of that first step to it becoming personal to me. And also on another note, I remember with Dark Souls 3, I saw a few articles that were saying, oh, this from Dark Souls is in there, and this from Dark Souls is in there. And I'm sure it was someone like IGN just went, oh, and lol, Lucatiel's sword is in there. And that was the point where I kind of went, and whilst for a lot of people it's like, Dark Souls 2, there's the odd mention in there. For me, those are the ones that just made me kind of gasp and want to find more of them. Yeah,
and the I hope that there ends up being more of them too. Like I'm with you when I say that like people feel like it's random or anything. I just happen to be in a position where I hear when people, like people tell me when they don't like it because of the podcast. So it is it's not my opinion. It's just something that I have an understanding of from curating kind of other people. But yeah, I'm with you, and she's great. What's your number 4, Paddy?
Okay, well I'm gonna just switch the mood around here. My number 4 is Patches, world's best dickhead.
Yeah, I have an Omni Patches on my list as well, so I'll be quiet during this so I can talk about Patches later.
Yeah, okay. Well, like for me, like Patches, he's like that friend who will like steal your beer, and he's doing it, but you'll never call him out on it, but you hang out anyway because he's fun. Like that dick friend that you like but you hate at the same time. Like that's Patches. Like I had trouble picking a favourite incarnation because I think they're all quite fun. But I think I like the one from Dark Souls 1 the most. I think it's the most memorable of all the Patches for me. Because like every time you meet him, like he acts sort of like your friend. He's all palling around, but like, hey, buddy, hey, there's some stuff down there. I don't even want it. You can have it. Go for it. It's yours. Go for it. And then every time he just fucks you over and fucks you over and fucks you over. And then when you meet him again, he's like, whoops, I was completely accident. I slipped, my foot accidentally shot out and kicked you in the bum, not on purpose. You did fall in that hole. It wasn't there was sun in my eyes. I couldn't see you. It wasn't me. But this time, look down that hallway. There's something cool over there.
My favourite is where he just goes like, you can't really blame me, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, fair enough, mate.
Exactly, yeah. And like, but every time he says like, "Oops, I wasn't, not my fault. I screwed up. Whoops," I forgive him every single time because you made me laugh. And like, he does always become like a semi-useful vendor usually, which is kind of fine. I don't care about that part of him that much. I just like having him around, like with his stupid big old nose and his big old spear. And like every single one of his tricks is like always at least fun and memorable, booting you into a world of misadventure.
Patches.
Yeah, like like in Dark Souls 3, I'm going to lock you in a tower that you can only get out of by falling down. Ha! And then
there's a certain warmth and joy to the voice acting as well, which completely solidifies that character because of the treatment with the way that he speaks to you. It's very underrated, I think, in that regard.
Oh, yeah. I really liked what he did in Dark Souls 3 in the Sigurd bit. When you find Sigurd inside of the Cathedral of the Deep, and he starts talking. He's like, doesn't sound like Sigurd. What's going on here? You can roll the camera around into his helmet, and you can see that it's Patches inside the helmet.
All right.
And at that point, like, do you know what? I'm just doing whatever you say because it's going to be funny.
Because you got to see what happens.
Yeah, I was co-oping with noted worst Jeremy Greer, who was pointing me out, like showing me some fun stuff that I'd missed, and he's like, just go, just enjoy this bit. I was like, okay. And again, just getting kicked down a damn hole with him laughing at the top of the stairs at you, like, fine. Like, every time I see Patches, I know I'm going to end up in a hole, like, surrounded by dudes, getting stabbed, or getting, like, hit with a hammer, or something like that. But there's usually something worth finding at the bottom of it, and it's just a nice bit of fun flavour in the middle of it. And I like that he hates clerics, because faith is for chump lords.
I'm glad they haven't explained it. Like, they could have, I don't need Patch's origins, and that could have been, like, an annoying thing that they could have done in 3 or in the DLC, but like I just don't really want that. I like this little character quirk that's just kind of like, no, that's Patches.
Well, you don't care. It was a cleric that killed his mum.
Yeah, it could have been like his Batman.
What do you think I mean, I've only heard about it secondhand, but there's kind of these moments of seeming heroism in the third game where does he go to rescue Sigurd? He has some redeeming qualities in the third one.
Oh, Sigmar. He goes and rescues not Sigurd. He rescues Grey Rat.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, because he says he did him a good turn, and like Grey Rat is a thief and is kind of a malcontent as well. Even though he's a good guy, but he's also a lawbreaker. Lives on the wrong side of there's no law. But he's also an archetype. That's kind of shady. But yeah, he actually goes and does this kind of moment of heroism, which is really weird. And then with him in Bloodborne too, where he is a shithead, but also kind of a true believer in this thing, like he's being a shit, but also, I don't know how genuine he's being when he says he wants to show you God and that you should be thankful, but I would, potentially buy it. It's somewhere on the continuum of Dark Souls 1, he wants to steal your stuff, to Dark Souls 3, he's helping somebody, and Bloodborne, where he has this god that he actually kind of worships.
Oh, cool.
He's a bit like Aladdin with the genie.
Oh, yeah.
I can show you the world.
So my number 3, speaking of Bloodborne, is Annalise of the Vile Bloods, which is kind of a cheat because she doesn't actually do that much. I'm kind of rolling up the entire everything that happens with Annalise into one thing. I know that you guys kind of bounced off Bloodborne. Are you guys?
Half of us bounced off Bloodborne.
Okay, I know what you said. CJ, are you far enough to know what happens with Annalise and stuff kind of later?
Honestly, like, the majority of Bloodborne's lore has gone completely over my head in the same way as when I first played Demons, I just enjoyed it for the game. When I first played Dark Souls, I didn't really know much about the lore. I just enjoyed it for the game. I fell into Scholar rather than Bloodborne, but Dark Souls 3, if anything, has given me kind of a lead back into Bloodborne. I finally clicked it, so I'm just up to Canehurst at the minute.
Well, this is Canehurst.
All right, cool.
Actually, I won't be too explicit there.
No, go for it, man.
Well, it's. I mean, people who are listening know what I'm talking about. The big incident with her, and it's great. Like it's really tied into Alfred. I could have chosen Alfred for this, but I went for Annalise because of this sense of mystery to her. The way she's presented, the arena that she's in. She's not a boss, but the area that she's in, and the way that those two quest lines converge is in a game that I don't think has strong NPC moments at all. Like Bloodborne really scaled back NPCs to where there's like 4 of them, and several of them don't really have a story to them. You get the Cathedral Dweller, who's a good guy, but he's not. There's nothing to do with him. There's not. I feel like there's a strong theme to that guy. To be the strongest like character moment, or the DLC has a really strong one too, but one of 2 very strong character moments in a game that kind of lacks them. That I loved. Like it was something that I was missing in Bloodborne until I got to how Annalise's quest climaxes, to where I was just like, oh, this is literally something every other game in the series has done really well. Bloodborne wasn't doing it, but when you deliver, it's just fantastic. It's an amazing scene and set piece, and you will love it. Like it is really pretty phenomenal, I think.
It is top.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Paddy?
Yeah, it is top draw. I think I nearly had Alfred on my list for, again, the same reason, like this whole culmination of this whole plot line.
Well, because up until that point, he's kind of shitty. Like he's fine. He's just a guy. You can ask him questions. He has he uses a cool weapon, and then you get this kind of other edge to him that's just such a fun surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you think he's going to be a bro, and he's all dressed in white, and he's your friend, and then ooh, you're not all there, are you? Yeah. Maybe this is not what it seems, and it plays into what Bloodborne's about and what Bloodborne's trying to do so well. That's I love me some Annalise, and again, really just that scene and those 2 characters. So, and there's some weird stuff too that happens with Annalise, where there were, as far as Bloodborne lore lines or theories that are not fully explored. I'm pretty bored by the Thumerians, but I love Canehurst, and I love the idea of Canehurst. And having the character that kind of represents that. Like, that was, that existing in this world I was really in favor of. Even if I was not into, a lot of, like, supposition about, them coming from the Chalices, because I hate the Chalices. I don't really like the Thumerians, but I like that existing in this world. I liked going and doing this Castlevania level in the middle of my Souls game. And like more about the Vilebloods, because you hear about them quite early, don't you, as well? And like that was Laura from Alfred. Yeah, Laura and wife was like, oh, so this is going to be vampires versus werewolves then? It's Underworld, yeah. Yeah, it's like no, we even has guns. It's exactly like Underworld. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Lots of tight leather as well. Yeah. Yeah, huh. I thought it was like Underworld 4, Bloodborne 1. Paddy, who's your number 3? Oh, we're there already. Christ. Okay. My number 3. Let me know if I skip somebody. I don't mean to skip someone. I'm trying to keep track of it. Yeah, we are. No, my number 3 from Dark Souls 1. You're going to see that a lot. Is Siegmeyer. Where do we begin? To start off, I think he's on the list as a bit of an apology, because in my very first run of the game, in Anor Londo... Oh, yes. I was fighting the Silver Knights inside, and I clipped him with my sword. I remember this. Yeah, which turned him hostile, and he then chased me around the level, and I had to kill him. We were co-oping at this point, weren't we? Yeah. And you were just getting me scathing you. I can't believe you done it. I was legit bummed out because no, leave me. I'm sorry. I missed. They came in the room where you were, and I was trying to save you, and then it didn't work. You just stood there looking at them, and you stood in front of my sword, you dick. So I missed the second half of his quest until my second or third run of the game, which is bullshit because his quest is really, really, really good. It's for me, Siegmeyer is a story about frustrated impotence. You always find him stuck somewhere, unable to move forwards, either because he's not good enough at killing things with a sword, or because he can't work out a puzzle, and he just sort of sits down, and he's not quite given up, but he doesn't know how to progress. So he kind of gets stuck in a state of perpetual a state of perpetual not sureness. And as you go through the game and you keep helping him and you keep clearing his way and you keep rescuing him, it sort of comes to a head in Izalith where he sort of tells you, no, you back off. I'm doing this time. I think his frustrations really sort of come to a head there. And then if you save him again, it's way worse for him because he'll die later in probably a worse way. And the classic Dark Souls thing is if you want an NPC to live, just leave him alone. Just leave.
Yeah. Just the best ending is no ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite a good example of a sort of the hollowing effect on an NPC in the earlier games anyway, of him sort of needing that purpose, that quest to find some closure and not finding it because you keep doing it for him.
Wasn't it that really great Epic Name Bro bit as well where he said that Onion Bro was the bravest character in Dark Souls because he keeps meeting indecision and being genuinely scared and being unsure, but keeps on pressing on, keeps on moving forward.
Definitely. I mean, I like Siegmeyer because I sort of relate a bit in a way. It's his frustration at not being able to progress. I also do it. I get frustrated at the limits of my own abilities, and you get stuck at a point where you can't move forwards, but you're too proud to admit defeat as well. So you get stuck in this perpetual state of sort of waving your hands in front of your face, not knowing what to do with yourself. He's one of the more human characters I think I've seen in the game. In a very sort of utterly worldly game, he's just a nice man who just wants to be good at what he does and he can't. And that's why. And again, I'm really sorry that I killed you on my first run. I didn't mean to. But yeah, Onion Bro, and I got so much shit from people when that came out.
Me.
You and quite a lot of the internet were very upset with me. I was upset with myself.
Yeah, but you put on a front for the longest time. You were like, well, he was coming at me. I was just there. He shouldn't have been. There was a real ring of bullshit around that before honesty
Look,
kicked in.
I didn't want to admit it. Okay, I was upset with myself, and you can't show weakness to the general public. He had it coming while secretly dying on the inside. So yeah, I love you, and I love that your daughter's involved in this as well, and that she finds you all dead at the end, which is really sad but quite lovely. Yeah, and no onion since has hit that height. Gary,
yeah, I've got a lot to say about Siegmeyer. I'm saving him, but he's very special to me as far as characters in the series go. But well said. And we're not a lot of overlap. The things I have to say about him are not necessarily the same things, even though I don't disagree with anything you said.
Cool.
Yeah, what do you got, CJ?
My number 3 is King Vendrick.
I knew he'd be on your list.
He has to be. Everyone has an opinion on who and what King Vendrick is. I know some people see him as a malevolent king. But I think about his story constantly. My Vendrick is a man who saw his people losing what it is to be human. And not just the cliche of a fantasy curse, but shedding that which makes us human, the memories we make, the people we love, the times we spend. A man who would do anything to save his people, veering into atrocities, splitting the human soul, the dragon soul, to try and find the answer. A man who crossed an ocean to steal an artifact which breathed life into the lifeless and started a war which he won. And yet when we meet him, he's a husk. In so many of these stories, these are the people who win, who face adversity and triumph. They don't make the wrong decision and end up like that. And yet in different lands, there were 3 crowns. And when united, they stopped hollowing. And the answer was there, and he went there. He zigged instead of zagged. There was no right answer. He went on instinct. And it stays on my mind. It resonates as brave and brilliant storytelling in a fable that I'm still falling into. If you factor into the Queen and the Chandra as well, there's something that ties into that there are these aspects of Manus. And one of the fascinations for me in Dark Souls was that Manus had dusk inside him, and that there's this aspect if you've got this beast who is, that poked and prodded humanity that's turned into sheer anger, and yet at the centre of him is a woman. That you could almost say that there's a degree of love that's there, or a need to be close, or a need to be with someone. And all of the aspects of Manus that have drifted into Dark Souls 2 seem to have, an essence of needing something more than hate. And I am fascinated by the Queen and fascinated by Nishandra. And I'm not altogether sure that what a lot of people see as a curse and aggression that's there, as to whether that is just the way that it seems, as to whether she did want to help her king, as she did fall in love with him, and was informing his decisions to try here and try there, and maybe the right answers just weren't there as well. So I know my mind flies all over this stuff, and I'm still fascinated with the story of Dark Souls 2. I can't let it go. And for some people, they think that there's no story there whatsoever, or it's just an aspect of what happens when the world recycles, when a story recycles. But for me, it's the most fascinating story in games for me, because I can't shake it, and I keep falling into it, and I keep noticing new stuff. And it just doesn't leave my mind. And Vendrick is a character that is incredibly resonant in that regard. And I'm sure there's tons of that maybe I've got wrong, or I'm not completely sure about. But just rolling that around in my mind, or finding new stuff about it, is just a piece of wonderment for me.
And I know you.
How good is the moment?
When
you've actually run into him, when you've had this whole thing where you keep reading him and item descriptions, and you know that he's this king who went to war and everything, and then when you actually walk into his arena, it's really, really wonderful moment. It's like it's a really good spot. It
stopped my heart. And in Scholar, when you see that there's this whole like dark lightning covenant that are there to honour their king, that there are dead that surround him that just want to be around their king, to me suggests that this is a man of great deeds and great daring. And like I say, there are atrocities absolutely laced throughout that. But for me, he was trying to find the greater good, the right answer. And fables and these sort of stories always tell us that people do this. And maybe there's something that happens here that's not so good, but then they triumph. And there are just so many uncertainties there. I think he's such a brave character, and it makes it such a resonant fable in the way that, so many stories are Disney-fied these days, but there's no right answer. This is a man going on instinct. And especially when we go back into the memories as well, and we see what he fought, we see what he beat, and this was amongst all the curse going off and everything, that he travelled to get something that would breathe life into the lifeless, that would animate husks as an aspect of would this work. And he did that. He did all of these things to try and rescue his people, and so many of them were horrible, and so many of them were brilliant. But that's what makes him such a fascinating character for me. And I
love the interplay with Aldia as well with him. Like for a while, my entire understanding of their relationship was Vendrick says to Aldia, like, "Yo, fix the curse," and then Aldia does all that horrible stuff, and then Vendrick's like, "Yo, stop fixing it. No, you've done it bad." But no, like, how did you find the scholar stuff as well? Like when you go back into the memories after you've got the crowns, that must have been good for you.
Yeah, it really was. I'm fascinated by this game. I keep going on about it, but I can't shake it. I genuinely can't shake it, and every time I return to these worlds, it still fascinates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love Vendrick. He was on my long list and got knocked down, but I do really like him a lot. A lot for that moment, and a lot for this. Him being like he did win. He's also was trying hard and did kind of laid low. Like he is a really tragic figure, and when you think about it as him being trying to return humanity to his people, being arguably laid low by this aspect of humanity. If Nishandra represents anything, it's want. And that's one of the things that they underline in 3. He's the king of want. It was the kingdom of want. This kind of thing. This like really base human desire kind of undercutting him does have that fable-like quality. It's a really good word for it.
But if you compare him to Gwyn was someone who soured and became nastier, and eventually, for me, at the end of Dark Souls, was looking for the person to kind of rid him of that, to take that away. And Vendrick is someone that saw things going sour around him and took action. And there were no right answers. And that, to me, it feels like someone that's ruled a kingdom. And we see that kingdom far and wide. We see it spread everywhere. We see the wars that he's had. We've seen the different places surrounding that. It feels like a voluptuous place, and that to me adds to it a little bit as well.
Yeah. My number 2 is Patches, Pan Patches across the series. I think the thing that he does with Sigurd in 3 is the funniest moment that the series has done. It's so goofy and it's intentionally funny. But it's pretty sharp, in how dumb it is. Like him just doing the the voice, like the talk boy, hey kids, home early, kind of voice, for this, just slays me. Like it is just, is really, really good. And, he ends up, I kind of like that he ends up doing a couple, he even gets this kind of good guy moment, briefly in this. Like if they're going to do, if this is the goodbye. And part of the reason why there's so much player aggrandizement in Dark Souls 1 aggrandizement in Dark Souls 3 is so they can kind of do their victory lap or their remix victory lap kind of thing. Giving Patches a friendly send-off sounds pretty, feels pretty good to me. And he's good in every incarnation. Like when he shows up as a spider monster in Bloodborne, I laughed. It was just like, this is, ridiculous. And then, I like Pete, obviously, Peter Serafinovich does really wonderful voice acting, and that ends up being one of the most fun kind of mysteries of that game, kind of puzzling out Peyton and Crate.
Peyton and Crate.
Peyton and Crate, yeah, Peyton and Crate, the artisanal barbershop down the street from my house in Portland, Oregon. Puzzling that out is very fun, and in 3, he's just like a joy every time he shows up to do something, because it is so devious and so goofy. It's something that, because you can cosplay as any character you want in these games because they're just defined by their armor, and having a character within the game kind of play to that is very funny. Like play by the same rules that I could.
I thought that.
So that is, Patches, my number 2. What do you got, Paddy? Who's your number 2?
Number 2, hang on. Let me just back up for 1 second. Hang on. Praise the sun!
Oh.
It's Solaire. It's Mofflin from Dark Souls 2. No, it's because it's fucking Solaire. Like, it was the second easiest one to write down without even thinking. Like, it's the poster boy. It's the ray of light. It's the hope in the darkness. It's the first and the best friend that you have in Dark Souls. Like, until that point in the game, everything has been trying to kick you in the dick. Even the crestfallen warrior at the start just tells you, you can't do it. Don't even try. Why are you trying? He tried. He failed. Why did he try? He's the first, outside of beating the Taurus demon, I think he's the first moment of, like, happiness and, like, victory and smiles the game gives you. And the fact that meeting him is what opens up cooperation and gives you the option to help other people. Like, that's a lovely bit of work. Like, that shows you that shows you what he's about, like, that he's a friend, he's how to help, he wants you to do well, and he wants to do well. He's a nice guy, you know, he's the most helpful person in the game, and he's the one who teaches you how to help people. That's brilliant. He's got the most memorable, or memorable dialogue in the game. Thank you, everybody. With all the gross incandescence and the praising of the sun and et cetera, which sort of helps cement him as the character. It makes him quite easy to be the poster child. But, like, outside of the praise the sun stuff and the gross incandescent stuff, like, he's actually got a real proper arc in the game. He's got a plot line that you can follow, and it's not just, man does thing well, end. He starts all hopeful and friendly, and he's telling you about his own quest, that he's trying to find his own son, and, you know, bits of the whole Gwyn's firstborn stuff, whatever. That's not the important part at this point. As he moves on, you sort of see him start to lose faith in his quest a bit. He's looking around for his son, and he can't find it. And as you sort of start hitting Izalith, he's given up. He's despondent. He's hopeless. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And if, like anyone who didn't have any, like, cheeky tips before playing the game, you don't know to go to lovely Spider Lady and open up the shortcut and go fix the bugs. Like, Solaire will find his son, and in the worst way possible. I found him gone at the back of Lost Izalith, running around with the maggots around him. Gone absolutely. He was gone. He wasn't Solaire anymore. He'd lost his mind. And again, like, it's Sigmire again. Like, they made me kill him. And that was just one of them minutes where I did it, and I put the controller down, and I just sort of sat there for a minute going, oh no, I killed my friend. And, like, you think, could I have saved him? Like, I know that you can. Like, I knew that you could take him to the final boss, but I was like, what did I do wrong? How did I fuck this up? Like, I was helping him, he was helping me. What did I do? I looked quite inwardly when I killed Solaire. I was like, what did I do wrong? I must have been me. The fact that you can do this really sort of quite roundabout thing to save him is probably the one thing about his quest I don't like. I don't like that it's really sort of, do this, give 30 humanity to this character. Why?
There's no way you would want to. There's nothing to signal it. It's bad signaling.
You don't know about it. Like if
it's
like
an Easter egg.
Yeah, if a character had said something like, "Oh, watch out for the maggots if they get on your head," you know, or you won't like that. Like, maybe that would have been enough to point out, you know, maybe you should try going out the other side. But without, like, a guide, like, I don't think many people would have found that, you know. But when you do save him, and when you do take out the bugs first, and bring him through to the end, having him, your first best friend, having him help you take out Gwyn, the final boss, potentially his dad, depending on how you fall on the law these days. Like, the fact that he comes through and he is the one that helps you beat the end of the game, it's magical. And it's a nice end for his story. You know, I guess he found his son. Maybe it was his dad. But yeah, it's Solaire. Like, there's not much. I don't know what else I can say about Solaire. It's Solaire. Like, every time you see him, you smile.
How do you feel about the way that his legacy has been numbed at this point?
Let me respond with a sound effect. Why Dark Souls 3? Why? Why did you do that?
3 hates Solaire. Like, it's not enough for him to not be Gwyn's firstborn, but they also lots of insinuations that he's made into soup. Literally, it's just like
I just listened to that episode of Bonfire Side Chat, and yes.
It is. It's you can see the creator. It's like when somebody creates something, but they didn't think it was that special, and then they why are the fans glomming onto that? Why aren't people freaking out about Ingi, or something like that? So they are. It feels kind of spiteful the way that character has been treated in that series. And like one of the things I can think about when you're talking about him introducing cooperation that I really like is that he didn't need this huge backstory. He's kind of there to serve a gameplay function first, which is to explain how co-op works and how worlds intersect, right? So he's the one who tells you, time and space are convoluted in Lore Dram. Like that is the all-purpose spackle for lore theories, right? Like you can just put that over any crack. Like, this timeline doesn't match up. Well, time and space are convoluted. Who cares, right? And that became a lore thing, but kind of started as just a reason for other players to be going on their own adventures in canon and help you out. And he's a character representation of that. The fact that they went so all out to actually give him this very kind of tragic story and this kind of nobility and everything, I think probably surprised the people making the game a little bit. Or that, they went and did that, which is the extra mile. The fact that was so resonant, rather, I think probably surprised the people making the game a little bit. And that is why, he's kind of grudgingly, the Praise the Sun is kind of grudgingly included in 2. And then in 3, it's like, nope, it's not him. And also he's soup. And maybe he's a worm and he's all these low things, because we hate him too. Or we hate him. Like, you guys don't hate him, but we do.
The worst thing is he's just a guy. Like, he's just a guy.
There's the aspect in Dark Souls that often sort of the game can become, oppressive and kind of, can be dark and really weigh on your soldiers, on your shoulders, and then it's just like, oh, hello again. And it's just this real infusion of positivity, and the way that then plays out when you get to Izalith and you see him broken is just a huge part of the heart of the first game. And I whilst I'm wondering if one of the DLCs may kind of rescue his legacy in a different way, I'm not sure that they're going to do it. And numbing the legacy of one of your most popular and greatest characters, it just seems strange to me.
It's very much his inclusion in 3. Like the armor you can find is very much a remember this. Like,
yeah,
doesn't seem like the lore wise for him. They're like, you're all wrong. Like all the firstborn son theories, it was just basically a big, no.
Just a bloke.
Just a guy.
Yeah.
Just a regular, just an average guy. Ugh. Dark Souls 1, that's where the lore should have ended for me. Like, stop there, and everything is fine.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that episode. I do not like the Nameless King lore stuff at all.
No.
It's fine on its own as like a character and stuff, and he looks like a cool Van illustration, but it is it kind of bugs me. So, and the fact that it wasn't enough just to have it be a thing, it has to actually take the place of something else. Like he's not, Gwyn Suckenborn or something like that. Like, and then just the fact that so much of the character, what we knew about Gwyn's firstborn, which we thought was Solaire, is part of a mistranslation. Where it was like he lost the records and was expunged, and that feels like something Solaire would do since he's kind of losing his mind and can't tell the difference between a solar body and a bug. But then when you find out that's a translation thing, and he was lost to the records, like his name was lost, and that it just kind of feels like revisionist history. Like it worked. I feel like it worked pretty well, and I know a lot of people who never liked Solaire as firstborn. But it's not even enough just to make him not the firstborn. You have to make him like a figure, a nobody and or literal soup. That's the part that bums me out. It feels kind of like aggressive, or it feels a little bit hostile to me.
But I think it does taste good though.
It does look pretty good. It looks like squash soup, which I enjoy. CJ, who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Manhunter O'Hara.
I had to look up who Manhunter O'Hara is again.
Really? No.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
She's part of my Justice League of Scholars, especially from Electric Ponyland. But she's confidence, poise, brilliance, the suave and grace of Bayonetta, carrying that massive lightning bow, incredible visual power. She's our Wonder Woman. and she's chuffing tops. I remember going into Scholar and summoning her in the run towards Duke's Dear Freya. I cleared the summoning room out of the spiders before bringing her in. So the sheer widescreen of walking into that massive room full of webs and spiders and watching Lassie just stand there, raise that great bow and just start like, zoom, 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 like start picking them off from distance. My jaw dropped. I laughed. The sheer spectacle was just marvellous and I bloody loved it. And she continued in the big spider's bedroom and it was a joy. She's there just before the Iron King fight as well, and like I say, she turns up in Electric Ponyland along with Vengal and a few of the others, and I just think she's an amazing visual. She's a great character, and she's don't know. I'd love somebody like one of the sort of big Dark Souls artists to just do me a poster of all of those NPC summons from Dark Souls 2 because I think they're great. But Manhunter O'Hara is definitely my favourite.
Yeah, I like the summons in general, but other than Jester Thomas and Bashful Roy, it's hard for me to remember specific ones. I didn't know this. I'm looking at this thing, but I guess you can summon her in the Iron Keep here, and if you saw this, where if you summon her, instead of helping you fight, she just will bow to you over and over. Which is either like a bug or just it's somebody trolling you as a summon, because that's Scholar is where they started kind of fucking with the lines and making NPC invaders do things that regular human invaders would do.
But there were loads of sort of female characters like Steelheart Ellie and Devotee Scarlet who would just get properly stuck in there. That wouldn't just sort of ponce about. They would just have gusto, and like I'm sure it was. Whether it be, it might even be Devotee Scarlet when you're in the Undead Crypt, who just when you summon them through, just go tearing off and will hit the first thing that's there, which in that case is the kind of the guy that's actually holds the torch and will continue to hold the torch if you don't kill him. And won't fight you and stuff. But she just cannons straight in there and punches the crap out of that lad. And will properly get stuck in. And I genuinely love all of these summon NPCs in Dark Souls 2. As we said earlier, I think they're so full of personality and the visuals are fantastic. But you know, Manhunter O'Hara is my favourite of those. I just think the kind of puffy Duran kind of blouse on sort of shirt, and then like what I thought initially were shorts, but is that short skirt, and then you've got the heels, and then that massive great bow, and the wonderful kind of Lucatiel type Faris sort of pointy hat. It's just even when she's not attacking, she's standing there. She's got the great bow slung like a guitar. And she's kind of looking down, and the hat just looks really cool, and I just think it's an amazing visual, and it's one of those that really stood out for that particular moment when in Scholar when I brought her in. It just turned something that I already knew about into something completely and utterly widescreen. I loved it.
I like the description of the outfit because it makes it sound like one of those sort of Halloween store like sexy Robin Hood costumes. Just like short skirt, heels, maybe a hat, and then like a comedy plastic bow, maybe with one arrow with a sucker on the end.
She's my girl.
Yeah. The fashion game is super on point with that character as well. I like her too. So we are at number ones, I think. Yeah. If you have one sentence about anybody who didn't make it on the list, what do you have? Like, let's not do a whole entry on them because then it eliminates the whole point of having narrowing it down at all. But if you have one sentence, do either of you guys have one last thing?
Don't know. I think really kind of my lost one would have been sort of Navlan, as I mentioned earlier. But I'm curious as to how the Forlorn is going to tie into that Dark Souls 3 DLC as well.
if I have to do, or if I had one thing, somebody who I really like, who I don't think gets tons of credit, is Ingi. I joked about him earlier, but I like him as the secret, like one of the worst people in Dark Souls 1. Is this traveling force of corruption who poisoned the swamp and did just terrible things, and has this woman who sucks the poison out of her people and serves without really knowing. That's a great little story.
My secret one, again, I mentioned it as a joke earlier, but I actually do like Mofflin, the armourer from Dark Souls 2. I think he's
he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's got a nice tale of hollowing, and he just kind of loses himself as the game goes on.
If you start buying stuff, he doesn't really go hollow. He starts getting he does eventually, but he starts kind of dressing like a rapper. He starts getting, and he gets like a posture like, "What up, son?" It's really great.
Alpha male sitting on a bus, like wide legs, like, nah, this is my seat. You ain't sitting here.
He man spreads like crazy, and it's very funny. Like when I first found that happening, again, very, very funny. He's great.
Do you know, actually, I like Mofflin so much, I nearly wrote a rap about him.
Oh yeah?
I'm not even kidding. I've got it on my computer somewhere. You can have that later as a secret. Yeah, I liked him that much. I started writing a rap.
That's fantastic. So getting to number ones. My number one is Siegmeyer, which I shouldn't surprise anybody.
Yes.
And the Siegmeyer, everything you guys said about Siegmeyer is true. But the reason why I think Siegmeyer is so good, which is part of the reason why Siegward is such an insult to everything I love about these games, is that so he represents all these things that you want to have a Dark Souls NPC represent. Like, he's a solid bro, like he's good. So having somebody who is good-hearted in the middle of these games is rare and refreshing. And he does have this bravery aspect. You talked about with ENB's video. But my favorite thing about this, if hollowing can be dementia, that's one metaphor for it, or as just depression, which you talked about, CJ. This is such a good illustration of a specific kind of depression or a specific kind of truth of the human condition that I haven't seen articulated this well through play, and that is that people need a purpose, which is there's science behind that. That's 100% a true thing. If you retire, if you no longer have a reason to live, if you are single, as you get old, you're more likely to die. You don't have kids, you're more likely to die. You don't have a reason to stay alive. Siegmeyer is a very a ludic, a gameplay expression of that need to have a purpose. And by thinking you're doing good through this whole game, you're robbing him of this thing that he needs to live through the whole game. Every single time you get to this problem and solve something for him, you're taking away something so spiritual and necessary and elemental to being a person without even knowing it. So when I had that realization and understood this quest line and knew what I had been doing while with all of the greatest intentions of the world, it didn't have that kind of, it felt like it crossed the boundary from a video game to real life. This is a real thing that people have that I feel all the time. Something I said or something I wrote a long time ago in a piece of fiction for a class was and it's a little couplet and pat myself on the back. Something I've always really liked is don't worry about why the flowers need the rain, worry about why the water needs the rain. Something needs to have a purpose. Something needs to, to be to an end, to be useful and to be good. And that's what Secret is, and it's very hard. It's difficult to provide that for somebody. It's difficult to respect that because and in the game it is. If you want to, take this person who's frankly not very competent, and not great at what he's doing, if you want to make him succeed, you have to, it's hard. You have to you have to throw him this bone. He has to feel like he's worth it, but he also has to be protected. And that feels like what we do with each other, what people do with their kids. This kind of, there's an element of it that just feels very like a human relationship, to it. And then just to have, you go through that, and because it's Dark Souls, it doesn't have a good ending, but he can go and he can, you can kind of finish this thing out, and then when you actually finally come across him, and his daughter has had to put him down for the last time because he does, he is this kind of incompetent. That's a whole other thing. It doesn't really relate to the first theme, but it's also this very sad moment and very amazing image walking on the beach and having these two people dressed, frankly, ridiculously. But there's so much dignity to the scene because of that context you bring to it. It's one of my favorite moments in that game. It's my favorite thing about Ash Lake. And the moments leading up to it are my favorite thing that Dark Souls has ever done with an NPC is illustrate that truth. It doesn't feel like it came from a video game. Like, I can't think of another game where you are hurting by helping, and it's not just, oh, humans were the real monsters all along, or, oh, you've got the fox dye virus, or something like that. Like, it's not cheap. It's just people need a purpose. And don't take that from them.
That's amazing.
I love
it's really
that.
amazing. Yeah. That's going to stay on my mind. That's the sort of stuff that does stay on my mind. Yeah. So I'd never really thought of the aspect of Onion Bro with regards to personally with the aspect of being paralyzed by depression as well, of just stopping and sitting and not being able to kind of take the next step. I'd never thought that about seeing him in the first game, but now that's one of those things that just lodges in my mind and kind of I tend to keep thinking about. So, but that was really eloquent. Thank you, man. That was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's why he's my number one guy, and that's why and we'll talk about it in the next mainline episode after recording this. But like, Sigurd's not an inversion of that or anything. He's not like, he doesn't play with that. Like you take all the iconography from this character that has a lot of meaning and don't do anything with it. He's just he's a good buddy. Goof. He's a bumbling goof who happens to be like, he's a good friend to Yorm. He's like a patch that was put on to make Yorm mean something. And to make me feel good about seeing him. And at first it's like, oh, this is going to be an inversion because every time I get into a fight, Sigurd's going to save me. It wouldn't have that same kind of universal truth, but it would at least be an inversion. But then right after that, Sigurd's up to his own dipshit tricks, and just immediately starts being incompetent. And you immediately start to save him, but to no end. You just save him and it's for nothing. He doesn't have any kind of confidence. He doesn't care. He just needs to get to the end of this thing, It's a cheap version. It's a copy of a copy. It feels like a lesser version of the same kind of character.
Yeah. I know you asked this question, but how did he get in that hole?
Oh, in the well?
How do you fall down a well that bad and lose all your armor? How does that even happen?
And the well doesn't go anywhere. I thought we'd end up finding that place at some point. Like, we'd go down in the basement of the cathedral and, like, there'd be a cave or something that led to that well.
Do you think
I have no idea how I got in there.
Told him, like, take off your armor to climb down the well because there's a shiny?
That's my guess. That's probably pretty... And then that's how he got the armor. So that probably follows.
Either that or the 18 banana skins around the well that he sort of combo slid over.
He Mario Karted it, yeah.
Armor flying off left and center.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Dark Souls 3 a lot, probably more than most. And there's still aspects of the story that still fascinate, and I really love the world. I think the bosses are fantastic, but there is this overriding feeling that I have that whilst everybody was jumping up and down and going like, Miyazaki's back, this is great, that if Miyazaki's name wasn't on Dark Souls 3, people would have battered it, because I saw what Tanamura went through within rescuing Dark Souls 2. Within creating the astonishing Three Crowns trilogy, and then going into Scholar, and the sheer bravery and pride of that man, and the shitstorm that he and the game sort of drew in, that if Miyazaki's name wasn't on Dark Souls 3, I think people would be battering it for the things that he does with the lore. And Dark Souls 2 at least had the sincerity to tell its own story. And whilst there were, nudges and winks, really in the same way as Robin Hood was a myth that was told throughout the country and was adapted by the poor and the rich, and it went all over the place. There was that real feeling in the second game leaning into the lore without being specific or without sort of going, oh, and then this happened. And I don't know. I just get the feeling that Miyazaki's name's being on it has given it somewhat of a free pass.
It's also when he was during the beginning development, like he was still up working on Bloodborne and the Bloodborne DLC. Like he doesn't have authorship over it, and he's also the president rather than like a lead designer for Dark Souls 3. He doesn't have authorship over it the same way he did with Dark Souls 1 or Demon Souls, which is what people want.
Well, it was still
that's not
the
case.
point before he became president, wasn't it? That he was working on Dark Souls 3.
I thought it happened. I thought it happened partway through. It's either it's that and the fact that he was. I mean, I could be wrong about that. So, you could definitely be right. But I know that it is not something that is like he helmed the entirety of too. Like there are other teams that worked on different areas because when it started, he was working on Bloodborne, which is so there's 3 Miyazaki 100% led games, and it's Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne, and then both 3 and 2 are melanges because he was very heavily involved in the Crowns stuff. I don't know if that's entirely him, but I know that he was brought in to help with those. People who know more about this are screaming. Who are listening to this are like freaking out because it's like, I just don't want to stop and look it up now. While I'm everybody who complains about minor errors on a podcast, should have to, stop and wait while somebody looks up something on Wikipedia every single time they have a question.
You said it on Fireside Chat, so it's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, there is that. You've raised the bar. So whereas we can kind of jam on this and they'll just go like, that's really not right. It's just Twin Humanities. That's
there's a lot of stuff that I will get wrong on that stuff too, just because 100% of all memories are false.
Well, that's part of the fun, though, isn't it? Because we're not supposed to know everything, but it's fun to kind of get your own perspectives or opinions one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Who's your number one guy, Paddy?
Speaking of getting perspectives differently than everyone else, my favourite character from the whole franchise, from Dark Souls 1, is Lautrec. Here comes some controversy. I really, really like Lautrec, and I think he gets an absolutely bad rap that he does not deserve. Because for me, when I meet Lautrec, he is the character whose goals have most aligned with the way that I like to play these games, which is the Age of Fire can do one. Because the thing I got from the intro is that in the beginning there wasn't anything, and then fire turned up, and everything got screwed up. So the fire bad is what I got from the intro. Fire bad. And all of Lautrec's lore points to him wanting to turn off the fire, from what I read into it. Again, people are screaming at me in their cars or at work. But no, you're all wrong. So the first time you meet him, he's locked up in a room above a dead firekeeper. He kills Anastasia at Firelink to turn off the Firelink fire. That is not fuck you to the player. I think that's him freeing her, maybe? Because she's trapped under there in a cage under the fire and she can't talk, whether she's been sort of, she's talked herself into the fact that talking is bad, because when you regenerate her tongue comes back and she doesn't want it. I think maybe he's freed her, perhaps. That's how I read that bit. He's killing firekeepers means fires go out, which pushes the Age of Dark 2016 agenda, for me. When you invade Anor Londo to get him, it's dark, so he's killed Guinevere, assuming she was a firekeeper. For me, he's seen through the sort of the maybe the lie, I guess, about wanting to rekindle the flame and to restart the new Age of Fire. He's heard all that and he's not agreed with it. He's said, no, I'm not doing that. Whether he's been also manipulated by Karth, probably, because he's also seems to be after humanity. Again, this is just my read of the lore, so if people are screaming at me, I'm really sorry, but this is how I saw it. He wants an Age of Dark to stop all the fire, and the way I see it, all the bad stuff in the game comes from the fire, and turning off the fire is right. And when I played Dark Souls 1 the first time, by accident, admittedly, but I chose the dark ending. By walking away from the fire. I think because I was going to try and meet you, CJ, to do the last boss with you, and I walked out to go put my summon sign down and kicked off the ending, I was like, right. Okay. But after reading into it and, reading how the endings play out, and again, I am at this point cutting off, I'm taking Dark Souls 1 as its own thing, with the ending of Dark Souls 1 being the end. And I know there's further lore on, but I don't think it affects how I feel about it. My read was that when you hit the dark ending, you have turned off the fire. and you are done, and it is finished. And I think that is what Lautrec was also trying to do. And sure, he's got an evil laugh, but that doesn't make him an evil guy. You know, just because someone goes, you know, I've got an auntie who laughs like that. She's not evil. She makes a cake, you know? And he might behave in a bit of a dickish way, but he's doing things that are pursuing an agenda for him and to try and change the world. He never actually ever lies to you. Everything he tells you is true. And I got that from you, Gary. From the first season of Bonfireside Chat. And I went back and I looked over all his dialogue, and every single bit of it is true. You know, he tips you off about...
He also warns you. Yeah, he also warns you about other people who are kind of blackguards.
Yeah. He tells you about other people that suck. And look, because I think he's a good guy. You know, he might kill people, but, I mean, so did you. You've killed loads of people. You've killed tons of people. Like, he's trying to force a change in the world, and it's not just for himself. Sure, it's because of his devotion to his God, but he's trying to fix the world in his own way. He is probably the most selfless character in the game, evil laugh and all. Please, Internet, send me your fire. I am ready for you.
You get the sense from him that even, you know, regardless of his motivations for what he's doing, he is, you know, kind of sees through bullshit. Like, he's kind of got that kind of character for him. Like, especially with him telling you about Petros and stuff. It's kind of like, no, you know, he kind of knows, because you're being played through all of Dark Souls 1, and you get the sense almost that he kind of knows it early on.
I think he's watched the lore videos.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, he's a great character. Like, he's really good. I don't know, people who hate him, I think they hate him, like, they think he's a bad person. I think people like him as a character, though.
Yeah.
A lot of really great memories.
Yeah.
Of Lautrec.
His line when you meet him when you invade him in Anor Londo, and he says, like a moth fluttering towards the flame. It's like, that's beautiful. That's just him telling you, yep, you've been told the fire's there, and you've just gone for it without thinking, like a dick. Like, he's told you you're dumb for not thinking about this. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, like, he's brilliant. And I think I've seen him without the helmet off, and he looks like super 90s, but super cool. With like that sort of longish curtained black hair and a bit of an evil face. But that's fine, Lautrec. I love you anyway. And his armor's so cool.
I was just about to say, how cool is his armor? Like, that's really good.
With the hands, the fingertips, is it? So his goddess can lift him up. And ascend him.
Embracing him in the middle as well. Yeah. Plus it's gold, which is just the most ostentatious thing in the world. It's basically how I play games these days. If I can pick something that makes me look, you know, ridiculous and ostentatious, I'll do it.
Yeah, it looks like Mifflin.
Yeah.
Like, if you can pull them off, then why wouldn't you?
This weekend, when I was helping out at an event, a car show, we got to dress up all vintage and retro. I put on a patchwork leather jacket made out of scraps of leather. It was disgusting, but I felt like $1 million. Like, it was one of the greatest things I've ever put on in my life, and I bought it, so it's mine now. So he's got a sense of style, but I genuinely think he's trying to fix things in his own way, and that's why I love him. Even though he's a bit of a knob about it, he gets the job done, or nearly does. So yeah, Lautrec, I love you, man.
He's great. Yeah, good pick. What do you got, CJ? Is it going to be an invader that I don't remember?
It isn't in this regard.
Okay.
It's Armorer Dennis.
Yeah.
Shit. My number one is the Emerald Herald. My beautiful Shanlot, my Herald. Returning to Majula always affects me. Those rolling waves, sure kissed by a rainstorm. The pristine bristle of cold breeze and sunrises. There's just something about that place. Seeing her there on the shore that just plain resonates with me. The bearer of the curse dialogue still cuts through me. It's not as jolly or funny or as full an answer as the others on my list, but it's the one which is instinctive, which I perhaps can't rationally explain. It's magical, and there's something that hits my heart of being back there, of seeing her there, almost like this kind of, you know, end end of the life and seeing the one person that's waiting for you on the other side, or those beautiful chimes that play while I'm there as well. For me, it's possibly my favourite piece of Dark Souls music that's there, but I enjoy seeing the journey throughout the game with Shanlot, the failed experiment, and as to whether she's real or as to whether she's not. Or I've seen loads and loads of theories of her. The voice acting is astonishing. That just truly makes me believe, and I don't know. It's one of those that's it hits me in the heart. And I don't know. We've spoken about depression and stuff before, but there's something about that place and seeing her there on the sunrise that just hits me. I can't really sort of waffle much more than that. It's just, I don't know. It's an emotional connection.
It's a real striking image when you first get down there and you see her on the cliffside.
Mm.
There, like, Majula is still my favorite hub in the series, and part of it's because it's like, it's the best place to live in the series. Like, if you had to live somewhere, live in Majula. It's my favorite hub music, and a lot of that is just that kind of, they're trying to make. I wish they had just let you level up in bonfires in 3 in Bloodborne, but they're trying to make that, that feeling of going back to somewhere feel comforting, and she's like a big part of that. And the way that she kind of creepy Watsons you later in the game, like when you go see, she's not there, you go talk to Vendrick, and then you turn around, and then she's standing there like she's been watching like the whole time. That's really cool. And then that echoes that dialogue from the beginning, that like, you know not why you're here thing. Super, super cool. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, so yeah, that's fine.
She's great. Yeah, well, thanks, guys.
No,
this is real fun.
Thank you.
This is good. Yeah, this was fun. Where people who are listening, where can they find you online?
They can find me at CoffeeJesus, COFFEEJEZUS on Twitter. Daft Lad over there is at Paddy Stardust, and you can jump to the website and the different shows from those. So that's probably the easiest way of doing it.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, I know a lot of people listen to your show, but if you haven't given it a shot, you definitely should.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Yeah, our last Dark Souls episode was only a month and a bit ago. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this kind of there's more Dark Souls podcasts like creeping up all the time. Like it's
better sort this out then, buddy.
Yeah,
we're getting on with it. We're being followed.
I've now realised we're stuffed.
No, I just mean that if there's people out there who just kind of have a bottomless appetite, it feels like, because people, like a lot of people I know who listen to our show listen to kind of all of them, so they listen to Jeremy's show, they listen to your show, and that's, it's there's a lot of people who will just kind of go for it forever, which is more time than I have. Like, I want to support all of my friends, I just like can't do that, but I'm glad that there are people who do.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, especially with Dark Souls 3 when it was coming out, I kind of purposely avoided Dark Souls chat because I didn't really like 3 that much. I think I enjoyed it the first time through, but then I kind of immediately went, I just kind of soured on it and kind of needed a bit of a break. I am catching back up now though, and it's been a delight. I think time away has helped. But there's like you said.
Yeah, I was the person that didn't go near Bloodborne, so I was the person that was into Dark Souls 2 and the Scholar of the Sim when Bloodborne was happening. So I've got a lot to catch up on, and the fact that all of my selections come from Scholar, it shouldn't really be a surprise. But I chuffing love that game.
Yeah, good times. Yeah, if you are listening to this, usually we have our Patreon backers to thank for episodes. This is a direct result of the Souls of Darkness Kickstarter. This is the final special episode I'm doing that. So for everybody who backed that project, thank you guys very much. And You know, if you like these episodes, if you like these special episodes, I like doing them. You have those people to thank. So
Thanks
thank
me.
them. Yes, thank yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So until next time, hey guys, what should people do?
Flutter towards the flame.
Break, dance, and eat biscuits.
Both good advices in different situations.
But English biscuits, which are cookies, not that strange American ones
gotcha.
that you have with ham and gravy or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Breakfast bread.
Are they like scones? Are they like cobs? Rolls?
They're like, if you imagine like a non-sweet scone, that's
Okay.
kind of what they're like.
All scones are sweet. I mean...
So I guess not then. It is not a...
that sounds like the most British rap line ever. All scones are sweet.
Yeah, I never really realized that it might be difficult to explain a biscuit. But I guess here we are.
See, right at the end of the podcast, we get to the real meat and potatoes.
Yeah, how to explain biscuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a non-sweet scone, fluttering towards a flame. Mombasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon